Some scholars today define history in such a manner as to exclude the possibility of genuine miracles in history. All right. So in other words, by definition, there is no miracle, right? Otherwise, you're not studying history. He says, especially as applied on a popular level, however, this definition risks confusing two meanings of history. Namely, a self-limited methodology. We only study this with regard and call that history, right? That as history cannot pronounce judgments concerning claims of supernatural causation. So if there's a judgment, if there's a claim about supernatural causation, then we can't say that's history, right? That's something else. So that's one kind of meaning of history. It limits itself, and you have to push supernatural activities out of the way. The other kind of meaning of history is a history as events that actually happen. Right. So you have history that says we can look at everything except supernatural events, right? Because they're not history. Versus history, another definition of history that says we can look at everything that actually happened, right? And so he says history as history might not pass judgment on whether or not an occurrence such as the resurrection was a miracle or a theological judgment involving philosophical questions about God's existence and activities and such. But it can seek to address whether or not an event literally happened, right? So notice the distinction here. What he's suggesting is we can have history that looks at all of the events that happen. And you don't have to necessarily explain the event or put a meaning to the event, but it's still history by examining that particular event.
Right. So we have this today, and it's plastered all over the news with colleges teach feminist history or communistic, socialistic history. And so they look at an event like Custer's Last Stand with the Native Americans, and they view that through the lens of class conflict, right, for communism. And so they're going to tell you all the things that happened and why it happened because of this model that they're presenting first, rather than just saying Custer heard the shot, he charged, he shouldn't have, he didn't see these other forces come up, and he ultimately lost. Now, they're putting their spin on it immediately and trying to direct you into a path of explanation with history to back it, rather than just saying event A happened, then event B happened.